From evil doctors to notorious killers to sinister leaders. Today, let's look at some evil people in history only in today's countdown. Starting off this countdown, we have Nannie Doss. Nannie Doss, otherwise known as Nancy Hazel, was a seemingly innocent and sweet woman. But what people didn't know was that she took the lives of almost a dozen people between 1920 to 1954. She targeted people all across the South and Midwest, including her own family members. She apparently poisoned 4 of her husbands, her 2 sisters, her grandson, her mother-in-law, and her mother. She may have also poisoned her daughters. All were killed for different reasons. Some for money, some to avoid caring for them, etc. What's creepy is that she was nicknamed the Giggling Grandma. Why? Well, because every time she would tell the story of how she killed her late husbands, she laughed hysterically. In our 9th spot, we have Maximilien Robespierre. Maximilien Robespierre was a French lawyer who eventually became one of the most influential figures of the French Revolution. At first, he started out as a strong and great leader, until he became obsessed with the guillotine. He started encouraging more and more people to become executed. More than 17,000 enemies of the revolution were killed as a result, or anyone suspected to be an enemy. So basically, innocent people were killed. That's not all. In a span of 10 months, he took the lives of over 40,000 people, which is absolutely insane. That's like killing 4,000 people a month. Another point is that he lived by the motto, killing is better than forgiving, which is something a psychopath would say. Moving on to number 8, we have Henri Désiré Landru. Henri was a French serial killer who took the lives of at least 7 women between 1915 to 1919. He did so by placing ads in newspapers pretending to be a wealthy widower who was interested in meeting a new bride. A lot of women who had lost their husbands in World War I responded to this ad thinking that it was meant to be, like how easy, and he's got money. Sadly, they would be lured to his home, robbed, and then killed. After doing so, they were dismembered and burned in the oven. Very gruesome, I know. He was finally caught when the sister of one of his victims tracked him down and convinced police that he was the one who killed her sister. And she was right. He was convicted in November of 1921 and sentenced to death by the guillotine. Moving on to number 7, we have Harold Shipman, aka Dr. Death. He was given this name because he was a doctor that killed at least 218 of his patients. So he was practicing in London from 1972 to 1998. During this time, he would kill innocent patients. In fact, he is said to be one of the most prolific serial killers in modern history. Like, imagine going to a hospital thinking that they're going to save you, and instead, they kill you. He wasn't caught until people were like, wow, a lot of elderly women die when you're on duty. What's up with that? And then they noticed that his name was on a number of cremation certificates. So they got suspicious of him, and he was later caught and convicted in 2000. In our 6th spot today, we have Jane Toppan. Here we have another medical professional who was also a serial killer. Jane Toppan was a medical nurse fascinated with death. To others, she seemed like a dedicated, hardworking, and loving nurse. But in reality, she conducted a number of experiments on her patients. For example, she would give them a bunch of different drugs just to see what they would do to them. She also had the tendency to push her patients right to the edge of death and then bring them back to life and then kill them again. And then she developed this unhealthy obsession with autopsies. Jane was arrested in 1901 and admitted to taking the lives of 31 individuals, although the number could be much higher. We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with Vera Renczi. She was a Romanian serial killer given the name the Black Widow. This was due to the fact that she killed her 2 husbands as well as her multiple lovers. It's believed that she poisoned and killed at least 35 individuals, including her own son. And that's because her son was onto her and one day found coffins in the wine cellar and was like, I'm gonna call the police on you, mom. So she poisoned him to keep him from doing so. Later, the police grew suspicious of her because of the disappearance of one of her lovers. They investigated her home and found 32 unburied zinc-lined coffins, each containing a male corpse. She was then arrested and confessed to everything. In our 4th spot today, we have Emperor Caligula. Now, this dude was the 3rd emperor during the Roman Empire, and he literally was insane. Like, the stuff he did is just the definition of disturbing. Like, I don't think they can teach you about what he did in history class. It's that bad. So this guy was known to do messed up things to his prisoners. Like, he would grill them alive or chew on their no-go parts. He also just liked killing people for fun or watching people get tortured. In particular, he enjoyed watching innocent people get killed and eaten by wild animals. He was so crazy, people thought like he had some sort of ailment and that's what was causing him to do these things and be so messed up. In our third spot, we have Vlad the Impaler. Now, this dude was known as the real-life Dracula. In fact, the character Dracula was loosely based off of him. Like, in order for you to have a monster created off of you, you have to be a monster yourself. So this guy would do dark things like dip his bread in the blood of his enemies and then enjoy it. That's where the legend of Dracula sucking blood came from, because he would suck the blood out from his soggy bread. But he is most famously known for impaling his victims, hence why he's called Vlad the Impaler. This guy would impale people to death, just shove them on the stick so that it would come out their mouth, and then just leave them there. It's said that between 1448 to 1462, he killed about 20% of the population, which is a lot. Moving on to number 2, we have Shiro Ishii. Now, the things that this man got away with are disgusting. He's literally the definition of mad scientist. So in 1936, this dude built a huge compound to perform a number of disturbing experiments in. This place was called Unit 732. Some experiments included getting women pregnant by his fellow scientists and then cutting open these women to study them while pregnant. He was also known to amputate limbs and then reattach them to other parts of the victims' bodies, or he would freeze body parts so that he could study what would happen if you didn't treat gangrene. Trust me, it gets worse. Other prisoners were his test subjects for grenades and flamethrowers. Everything he did was horrific, and he was sadistic. He loved torturing people and running disturbing experiments on them. And in our number 1 spot today, we have Pol Pot. Pol Pot was the Prime Minister of Cambodia from 1976 to 1979. During his reign, he cleansed a fourth of his own nation. He wanted to destroy the civilization and turn it into a new age. So he ordered a genocide against his whole country. As a result, millions of Cambodians were displaced, tortured, and killed. Others were forced to work in a field fertilized by human bodies. And if you stopped working, you would either be punished by not being fed or by death. And if you made a mistake while working, you were also killed. Many people literally worked themselves to death. I could do a whole top 10 list on the dark things that this man has done. Like, it's that much, you know? He literally killed up to 3 million Cambodians. That's literally 25 to 33% of his country. All right, guys, that's all for today's video. We're gonna move quickly along to our comment shout-out portion. I'm gonna be shouting out comments from the video, top 10 horrifying things recovered from science labs. Anastasia Beaver Hostin commented, "Your makeup is beyond lovely." Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Margie Burke commented, "I hope the guys that was in the lab are okay, because if it was a biological lab, they could have got something." A lot of people were commenting that. Like, just don't go exploring places, okay? Just don't go exploring abandoned buildings. Just don't, okay? This is why. And Jason West commented, "Lindsay is amazing." Thank you so much, Jason West. You're amazing. I love when people comment compliments about me. I'm just kidding. I'm not cocky. All right, guys, that's all the comments I'm shouting out for today's video. Make sure to comment something down below for a chance to be featured in my next comment shout out. And as always, don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to Most Amazing Top 10 for more amazing videos. I've been your host, Lindsay Ivan, and I'll see you when I see you. Bye.